being a team. So welcome to you all on this, what are we, July the 2nd? Or is it the 3rd? I can't quite remember.
Second.
The 2nd. Thank you, David. And we're like perched halfway between Canada Day and Independence Day in the States. So that's an interesting place to be. And greetings to anyone from Europe who may not be celebrating either of those two things. We're all one here. We all speak the same language. We all have the same understanding of why we're here and what we would like to do today and any other Zoom group meeting. We're here to project our consciousness into one or other area of the spirit world and meet up and maybe retrieve any souls that we may run into there, with the understanding that we can not limit ourselves to either where we go or how we get there. Everyone here now is, I'd say, pretty practiced at this, and you don't need very much guidance from me at this point, but I will be the voice for the experiment. So please allow yourself to relax, sit back, lie back, whatever position suits you the best, whatever makes you comfortable and at ease. And don't forget to close your eyes. You'll be using your spirit eyes, not your physicals, today, since now. Let's slow that breathing a little bit. So getting focused, let us move into that eternal moment that is always here with us, even as we fret about the recent past or regret it or get slightly anxious about the next day's adventures or commitments or stresses. Let us put all that aside. Let us live in the moment and let us move on up out of our physical bodies. Feel that astral body rising as you project it on upwards, as it moves on up out of your physical, up through the ceiling of the room that you are in, up through the roof of the building that you are in, and out into the open air above that building and above whatever community you are part of, whether it be rural, suburban, or urban. You are up and over the community, feeling the fresh air, or the hopefully fresh air above the community. Let that breeze eddy about you. Let the clouds inspire you with their interesting shapes and textures. And allow yourself to be projected to whatever level or area of the spirit worlds you feel is useful or appropriate for today. And if you are puzzled about what to do, allow your guides to give you a little nudge one way or another. They're always glad to help out when asked. And enjoy your interactions. Do what you feel you need to do. And we will report back to base in about 15 minutes.
Gordon,
Uh-huh.
the meditation feels good, but it's about time to start coming back.
Okay. Okay. In a couple minutes. Okay, everyone. If you feel like you're had enough of an experience and are ready to return to your physical position, please do so. And if you're not, then take a little more time. Don't let my voice rush you. Take your time.
I think everybody's back, Gordon.
Okay, thanks everybody. Good to have you all back, and I hope you had some interesting experiences. And if you would care to speak, let David know, and we'll listen.
Here's an interesting synchronicity. A couple minutes ago, I was thinking, well, who's going to go first? And I said, well, I think I'm going to call on Denise. And then there goes her hand. So isn't that
All
cool?
right.
Okay,
Very
Denise, go
nice.
ahead.
Very nice.
Okay. Well, I wanted to raise my hand too because I'm going to be somewhat pretty quick. What happened is I went into an experience where all of a sudden I saw like a truck backing up. And you know how when a truck backs up, the lights turn on, and it goes beep, 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 right? So then this truck and it's backing up and it it like runs over an animal.
Oh.
And then it pulls forward and then it backs up again and runs over an animal. And then it's like, okay, where are we going with this? And then I was just getting all these flashes of animals, and this feeling came over me. But the animals there were like, you would see like a rabbit and a squirrel, the typical type of roadkill, so to speak, animals that you would see. You know what I mean? And then next thing I know it, David says, it's time to come back or something. And I was kind of jolted out of it. And then I couldn't even really remember. I was like, well, wait a minute. Wait, what was I even? And then it started coming back to me. So when in the experience, I don't know. That's just the last that I remember it, them, showing me all of the, the souls that are, roadkill, so to speak. Yeah.
Oh, the animal souls?
Right. The animal souls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Any
Did you
comments on
feel
that?
like,
I said, any comments on that? And go ahead, Gordon.
with your description, it sounded to me like suddenly being called back, that you sort of got lost in the experience. Is that right?
Yeah, because that's the last thing I remember. And I got to that point pretty quickly. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, the divine, because I'm animal communication attuned, to the tree of life. So I was like,
Yes.
oh, the divine animal kingdom is here. I remember thinking, and then, whatever, boom, gone.
Well, the reason I ask is, of the two situations I found myself in today, in the second one, I kind of got lost in that for a minute or two and snapped out of it and thought, okay, what am I doing here? And it was I, I had read about these. There's been an ongoing civil war between Rwanda and the Congo, and it's reached headlines because Trump wants them to stop, and he thinks that if he gets them to stop and agree to a peace treaty, he'll somehow get the Nobel Peace Prize. So anyway, that's that thing. But I realized when, a little few days ago, I didn't really know anything about this civil war. So I went and had a look today, and in the middle of having a look, which I'll describe later, I got lost. So I just wanted to say to you, I got lost too for about, I'd say 3 or 4 minutes.
Hi, it's in the air, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Margaret, have you got any comments on it? It's an animal. Okay, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, as soon as you said it rolled back and forth, I was just like, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. But I really believe that what happens when something traumatic happens to an animal as well as to a person, if they get hit by a car or whatever, their soul leaves them before the impact, so that they don't feel it and they're not in pain. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping anyway that's true. I'd heard that before. There was an incident where a girl was run over by an old friend who was very jealous of her, and she was in a parking lot in somewhere in the States, and she was at a grocery store, and she's walking out of the grocery store, and this other girl hit her with a truck and did exactly that. Rolled over her, came back, rolled over her, came back, rolled over her, came back. And so her parents later on went to a medium to see if they could contact her. And this is what she told them. She told them, I didn't feel a thing. I didn't feel a thing, so you don't need to worry. Anyway, horrible. I just hate that stuff. Anyway, can I do mine? Because mine
yes, please do.
was very bizarre.
Wait,
Sorry.
Mark, real quick,
Yes.
I just wanted to add that I've also recently been that I was explained to me, I forget exactly where, but that animals come into the 3D world awakened. So they do not fear death or what comes after because they come in awakened, they know. So
Exactly.
I don't know if you've heard that before, but
I have heard that before. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
There,
sorry. So you
that,
were,
no, it's okay.
That's
But
an
that's
important
what
point. Yeah.
yeah.
that. Oh yeah, it's very important. But I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to become a Reiki animal master, because they understand things. They have the claircognizance, the knowing of what to expect, and that's why I prefer to talk to them, because a lot of humans I talk to say, "Is this doo-doo? Is this going to hurt?" And I thought, oh, I can't do this anymore with the questions. But animals get it right away. They just understand. So thank you for that. That's very true. Mine was not a retrieval. Mine was a save. And I've never had this one before. This was very odd. When I went up through the clouds, I think it was probably on the first level, but it was very cloudy, and I'm calling to see if anybody needs any assistance. And I hear this very loud male voice saying, "Yes, I do. Help me. Please help me." And I said, "Okay, sure. Like, come forward. I can't see you." I said, "Come forward so we can meet." And he said, "Please help me. Don't leave me. Don't leave me." And I thought, what the heck? And then I said, "Where are you?" I said, "I can't see you. All I'm seeing is this cloud mist." And he said, "I'm in my car. I'm in my car. I'm in the water." And I went, "Oh, yikes." Okay. So, I went down, and there was this bridge. I can see the bridge. But I don't know what town it is in, but it is in the States. And, his car had gone off the bridge into the water. This was a 40-year-old man. He was all by himself in the car, and he said, "Please help me. I can't get the door open." So I went down and I tried to get it, but I couldn't get it either. But I noticed my angels were hovering above, and I think they were waiting for him to transition, or they were thinking, you can take him home kind of thing. And I just went, no. I said, "You guys, you make miracles. I know you do. I know you do. Please help this man. Help this man open the car door." And so then the door did pop open, and he swam his way to the surface. And when he popped out of the water, he just said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And he swam to shore. So it wasn't a retrieval. I don't know where it came from. But
it was a live retrieval.
It was a live retrieval. Yeah.
A live retrieval.
Yeah.
Not a dead spirit, but a live one.
Right. Interesting.
Well, that's pretty interesting, Mark. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, because for the longest time I'm sitting there thinking, okay, who can I help? Who can I help? And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to go through this whole retrieval and I'm not going to get anybody. Nobody's coming forward. But yeah, he did finally. That's it.
I'd like to go next because I want to piggyback what you just did. And I had a dead drowning retrieval.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to yours, but a little bit different. So I think that's pretty interesting. Maybe another synchronicity for today. But anyways, like you, I went up through the ceiling, saw the nails that you see when you go up an attic on the very top part where the wood is. I saw all that, and then I went up through that, kept going, looking down at our apartment complex and the elementary school that's right near us from a top view, went into the clouds. And then I found myself, next thing I knew, I was near the Grand Canyon, those types of rocks that are red and beautiful. And there was a small river that was between these rocks. It was like a tributary. It wasn't really going fast or anything. And then I saw this I thought well, it was actually, it was made out of wood. It was a boat, but it was more like a canoe. And there was this guy that was in it that was probably not 20 yet, maybe 19. And he had on a white shirt with jeans. And I didn't get his name, but he was like, had like premature balding, nice looking, but sometimes these poor guys, when they're 18, 19, they're losing their hair, and that's what this guy had. But I'm just describing. And in the canoe was his dog, and I did get a name. The dog's name was Rambo, and it was a black and white dog. And then the next thing I saw was the guy in the water. What had happened, and he had fallen asleep, and it was more like a stream, but then it turned into a raging river when he woke up, and he capsized. He did have a life jacket on, but he got hooked up on a rock where his face was. He had floated to this rock, and his face was facing the rock, and he was underwater, and the pressure behind him was so he couldn't free himself. And like you said, or some people say, he didn't suffer. There was an angel, another being around there that took him before he drowned, so he didn't suffer at all. So the dog made it to the bank and stayed there because the master was close by. You could see the guy's body, and some other hikers in the area came by, and the dog was barking, and they called the rescue team. The rescue team came out, and they retrieved the body. And then, so let's see. Then next thing I know is that we're in this room, and it's more like it looks like I can even see like the tiles on the floor and everything. And there's a round of chairs in a circle with about 10 people, and it's a therapy session. It's like a group therapy session. And so I was sitting there, and I was talking to him a little bit, and he was. I got the impression, or he told me what his personality was like. He's like a high achiever, and he was young. He had all these things that he wanted to do. He was in college. He wanted to graduate. He wanted to get married. He had all these goals and everything. And he was in that therapy session. This is in the afterlife therapy because he was angry. He didn't want to go because he hadn't achieved these goals. And so he didn't pass all the way through. And these other people that were in the group, I don't remember what they looked like, but I just know they were there basically for the same reason. They didn't complete what they wanted to, and they were angry too. And so after several sessions of going to this and talking to a leader and the other people, it was explained to him that people, all of us make like little mistakes. And it really wasn't his fault. It was just, it just might have been his time to go. And there's nothing that could be done about it. It wasn't his fault. And he should probably think about moving on. And so, and that's exactly what he did. There's different ways to move on. Like Gordon talks about going to a building, a retrieval place, and then other people, like they can see guides, pass them on to guides. Well, with me, I see a little bit different. Someone usually they're ready when they come to see me, and so a couple people appeared. Other people that had been in the same situation that were dead, that had moved on, that were in these type of groups, and they went with them, and they picked him, and he walked with them to the light, and that was it.
I see. Yeah, there are many ways to do retrievals. Just because I seem to wind up in these war zones with treatment centers and places that look like sometimes tents and refugee centers and stuff.
Mhm.
It's just one of many, many ways. I certainly had one-on-one experiences with clients and years ago where I come across a recently deceased person and have to sort of awaken them to the fact that, yes, you are dead. And once I do that, then sometimes the family that's been waiting for them kind of walks into the thought bubble, the thought form room, and goes, "Hey, you're here, great," and then my little role is just to sort of get this person that's had a heart attack or a stroke and is wandering around his house, not realizing why no one will talk to him. That's about my role. So, there's always all kinds of ways to do this.
Mm-hmm. The important thing is that we are doing it and
Yeah,
helping these
sure.
people, these souls cross over. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
if everything's different. Everybody's got their own unique way, it seems. You get these big groups, Gordon. I get usually single things.
Well, I think it's because of the kind of wars that we've had in the last couple of years, David. It's pretty much that, you know. Certainly, I did some stuff like that going back to, the Iraq War of 2003, I think it was. There was definitely some group stuff there, and the tsunami, and different things. But
Yeah.
I've done lots of one-on-one stuff, or what seemed like one-on-one at the time.
Okay. So after we're done, I've got one question for the people, but I'll wait till everybody speaks. Okay, Adrian, what's up with you?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I saw a parrot, a red parrot. Not sure why. That bird that speaks. And that wasn't leading me anywhere. So I decided to do a short retrieval where I do it subconsciously. So I just meditated, I even fall asleep. And I got few glimpses of what was happening, but I couldn't remember. Like they disappeared. But then I tried to do a conscious retrieval, and there wasn't a strong connection, but I got the sense that someone was poisoned. He looked really bad, even in this spirit form. So I thought how to approach him, and I just told him, "Hey, hi, I saw you from afar, and I already called for doctors. They will arrive soon." And I got his attention. And so I told him that because you are poisoned, you will have a difficult time seeing them, but you need to focus on them, and then you will see them. And that kind of trick to focus his attention on the guides. And they came in a doctor disguise, and he was kind of confused and not fully tuned to the guides. So he could see them, but still was some kind of confused. So I was keep talking him that pay attention. It's imperative that you listen, that you observe and listen to them. And I was keep repeating that, and it worked. So then I got the sense that this situation is being under control. So I left it. And that was it.
Thank you.
How does that red parrot, tell me, what's the significance of the red parrot that you saw in the beginning?
I don't know. I got a clear visual of the red parrot, which is unusual. I don't know if it has any meaning, but that's what I saw.
Did you say that the spirit went with the doctors, the guides?
Yes. Yeah.
So you completed a retrieval then?
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, I think so. Yes, you did.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Adrian.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also find that it's easier to kind of tune in and remember these meditations with eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
So now I get why you, Gordon, have closed eyes. It's easier to see or remember what happened.
Yes, I'm glad that works for you.
Gordon, why don't you tell us about yours?
Oh, okay. Initially, I caught myself thinking what seemed to be like thinking of a video that I had seen, I think this morning or last night, about because of the ceasefire, many people are walking back to where they lived in Gaza, lots of them, coming along the seashore, I think. And it showed them, I don't know, trying to move into these wrecked urban areas, and there's tents been put up, and their issue, and I know it was a sort of an ad for a food agency, and they were looking for money, and they were showing what they were doing, bringing, I don't know, corn, rice, sacks of this, that, and the other, and also showing that one of the main needs was water. They were all desperate for water, and not quite sure why, but water's in low supply there. So I found myself seeing that people carrying little buckets of water along to where their families were, their children were, and everyone looking very, dry and thirsty. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, Gordon, you're rerunning a film that you saw, and this is, and then I realized there were also deceased people that were kind of like on a parallel with these living, thirsty refugees. And they were dead, but they were also living in a sort of astral plane, wrecked urban area, all bombed out, and they were thirsty too. And I wasn't quite sure why they weren't accessing, the usual sort of thing that happens when guides and helpers set up things on the first level to get people to, drink water, have a snack, have a coffee, whatever, while they're, fully dead and not realizing it. So I couldn't quite get why that was. So I thought, okay, I'll go around a corner here. I went around a corner of a building, and I loaded myself up with water. I had some buckets of water, and I walked around, and people saw me, said, "Oh, great, you got some water, right?" And or they had that thought. And I was using these kind of very rough and ready buckets, and I thought, surely I can do better than this. So I went back. I said to these people, okay, I'll be right. I'll just go get some more and I'll be right back. So I go around this corner again, and I manifest two of these large sort of plastic tubs with, little tap-like things on the front that you can pour out of. And they're quite big and heavy. And I brought those in. I thought, oh, this is better. And, I lay them down and people all seem very excited. And so then I'm thinking, okay, there's something they're not getting here. They're not ready to be moved on, but they're ready to be told that there's a couple of coffee stands around the corner where they can get coffee and soup and sandwiches. So I said, see this water? I got it at the stand around the corner. You go around here and you'll see a couple of guys at a stand, with water and coffee and soup. I said, just go right around there. And they did. And I'm not quite, I couldn't figure out why they hadn't found it already. But, these things, funny things happen when you're doing this kind of work. And they seemed happy to find that. And, that was great. And pretty soon after that, I wasn't needed anymore. So I thought, what'll I do now? And then I was thinking about what we've read about, the little that I've read about this ongoing civil war between Rwanda and the Congo. Apparently it's been going on for years, and it's pretty wicked. And I don't know if it's over oil or rubber, or I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's over some commodity, I'm sure. And they're still kind of at it. And I found in certain areas as I whipped around, I guess what you would call rural peasants, tribes people dressed kind of, like that rather than, urban people in the Congo that might live in a town and be, dressed in a more urban fashion. And they people that had been killed in the ongoing battles between various armies and militias over some years. And they seemed to be looking for bread. So I'm thinking, okay, bread, right. If a couple have said to me, you got any bread? So I sort of cottoned on to what they wanted, walked, and of course I'm like, they're looking at, you're white, everyone's black, and am I the only white guy here? It seemed a bit odd. And helpers usually show up in the way that is most useful. And I didn't see any black helpers, but they must have been there somewhere. So I went around a corner, it was kind of forested, and I manifested something I'd seen. It's sort of like a big sack, a cloth sack that hangs over your shoulders, and it's on your chest, and you can put lots of loaves of bread in it. I don't know where I'd seen this, and I kind of walked around the corner with all this bread on my chest, and people, like, oh great, you got some bread, wonderful. So they're grabbing the bread out of it and munching on it almost right away. And I'm thinking, they need some water to wash that down, and silly things that you think of. But then I noticed what the kind of bread I was manifesting was kind of like a French loaf, like long, thin, and I thought, I wonder if that's appropriate for these people. So I went back around the corner with my empty sack, and I said, okay, let's manifest some kind of bread that these people really like. And then it was a darker bread, and it was fatter. And I walked back around, and they were even keener with this bread than the previous one. So I was doing that for a while. And this is when I said to earlier, I got lost in that. I was doing it for about 5 minutes, and I might have even have drifted off into sleep. I'm not sure. And I came out of that after about 5 minutes, and I thought, oh, what am I doing? And I thought, oh, I've got lost in that experience, which is why I commented on it. Usually I keep focused pretty well, but I got lost in that. And like 30 seconds after that, David says, oh, it's time to come back now, Gord. So then I knew I had to have gotten lost in the experience. But obviously something was happening. I just somehow drifted off, and the aspect of me that was carrying the bread back and forth just kind of continued on. And the me that was the observing self sort of, I don't know, probably nodded off for about 2 minutes. Anyway, so that's what I experienced today.
This is like an astral travel that you went to a different dimension and interacted with the people. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so, David. Like I say, I'm between now and the next time we talk, I'm going to research this civil war, because it's obviously Trump's really pushing for a ceasefire so he can get the Nobel Peace Prize, which I don't think he will. But we're going to hear more about it, because I've heard next to nothing about it at all.
Yeah.
And I knew something was going on, but I had no details. And I'm going to research it a bit more.
Very good. I'd like to bring up something, and I'm particularly interested in what Gordon and Denise have to say. Both of them are mediums. As you've heard me say a couple times, that I don't get all these like detailed visions that I get. They don't all come at once. I take like probably a week before we come and do this. I'll go out, and I've mentioned this, I go on a nature path, and that's where the stuff usually starts up. Like I'll get an initial thought, and then I'll get like a kind of like an outline, and then I'll go back the next day and I'll do the same thing, and I'll get a little bit more of the details. And that's what happened with the one that I was just telling you about, the drowning. And even when we were doing the meditations today, I got the final details. So that's like 3 times that I get a bunch of details in. And then I had time left over, and I said, well, why don't I try to do another one? And then I just got like a total blank. So my question is many times, even when I take these walks, nothing comes in. It's just like totally blank. And everybody else here seems to get these when we're doing the meditation, and I just have a heck of a time sometimes starting with these. That's why I do them like a little in advance, so I've got something to say.
Hmm.
What do you guys think about that?
I'll go first because I'm the non-expert, and then Gordon can go.
Okay.
Because he's the expert. And this way mine will be more authentic and I won't sound more like Gordon, right?
Yeah.
But to me, I think what could be going on here, it could be the intention that you're setting. Okay.
Mhm.
Because there's times where like I might have a practice reading circle and I go to the beach that afternoon and I set the intention right then and there. Okay, I have a reading this afternoon. It's a practice reading. I have no idea, what the sex is, or if it's going to be a sitter, or if the sitter doesn't show and it's going to be somebody in the group, whatever. The point is I don't know. And I say, what information do you have for me? And I bring it to the event, and the information is accurate. You know what I mean? And then yet there's times where I can sit there right on the spot, and the information comes in differently. I think a lot of it just has to do with the intention, and it seems like you like to work that way. Like you said, oh, I sent the intention. I start a week in advance.
Yes,
Next
I do.
week, that's like something a teacher would do. You know what I mean? That's what the teacher does. They start organizing their class materials. So, that's the intention you set. So that's what your team, that's what your team brings in. And, that's kind of like how I'm seeing it. And yes, and it always will be different, but the attention is always different because then there's monkey mind and we can get distracted. You know what I mean? And just bring yourself back in, and you always have to let go of the outcome, because in the beginning, especially like with this class, it was like, I'm expecting, I want a soul retrieval. But, sometimes they bring in a retrieval, sometimes they bring in a lot, sometimes they bring in just what you need that day. So, I just go with it. I've just learned to just, you know what I mean? Go with it. And it's important to connect. Not only do you have to set your intention, but just like take a pause, like you said, on your walk or whatever, just set an intention, pause for a second, find yourself heart-centered, and then walk and make it like a walking meditation. You know what I mean? And then more comes in. But yeah, if you set it like how you said, oh, I like it this way or that, you know what I mean? You got to let go of how you like it. And because they know you better than anyone, right? Right.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's probably my best shot at it.
Well, thank you very much, Denise. Appreciate that.
I also think that giving some time and space is a good way to get information, because there might be those spontaneous moments when something can come forward, some small vision or information or synchronicity, and you can just collect them and piece them together later. Especially that you set the intention for this, I think. Yeah, this is kind of out of time and space, so it doesn't matter. It's it slips through in those moments, and you just collect them, and that works. I think that's a good way to go about it.
I think it's more like it's not my schedule; it's their schedule, and you just got to be patient. And if you overthink it and stuff, and you have nothing, you get more and more worried about it. Come on, I need to come up with something, and it makes it worse.
You may be even open to synchronicities. They might tell you additional information.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yep. What about you, Gordon?
Wait, one last thing.
Okay.
It could be too that you're trying to go from like A to D. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? And that's a lot of times I would do pushing or this and that. And it's like, there's steps. You got step A, B, C, D. You know what I mean? And you're on C, and it's like, oh, I want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think of it as like, skipping a step that they don't want you to.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
I got an interesting synchronicity lately with spirit guides, I think.
Hmm.
So I watched this video one day about how to connect with spirit guides, and then I went for a walk, and then I came back. There was this Kinder egg next to our door on the second floor, and our floor is closed, and no children are living there. So it wasn't there when I left, and I picked it up, and inside the toy was a spirit. So I think that's. I never found anything on our floor because it's closed. There's just no way for something to get there, but it was there, and I wasn't sure if it's spirit guide related or Sasquatch related because we were also having this Sasquatch event, but because in the egg was a spirit, I thought then it's a spirit. It's a sign from spirit guide.
What was inside of the egg?
A spirit, a small spirit figure.
You saw a figure
Yeah.
in your mind's eye, or
No, that's a real. That was a real Kinder egg. Do you know what a Kinder egg is?
no?
It's a chocolate egg. It's a chocolate
Okay.
egg with a small toy inside.
Oh, I see. Okay. No, I was thinking it was a real bird or a real
No.
egg. Okay.
If I could just intervene, as soon as you said Sasquatch, I thought, yep, Sasquatch. Let's do that. I don't know how they did. I don't know how they got in your building, but I thought, oh, and also because it's an egg, dragons lay eggs. They're actually related to birds. And so I thought, oh, maybe he's getting his first dragon egg. But then when you said Sasquatch, I thought, yep, that's it, Sasquatch.
Well, whatever it was the timing and the synchronicity of it, and it's highly unusual to find it at the place where I found it. So I just knew it's a sign.
It is indeed.
Getting back to your Sasquatch, you had a meeting, didn't you?
Yes, we had a group meditation last week,
Mhm.
and it was the fourth one we did, and this was the most successful one. We were just 5 participants, but everyone got something this time. And for me personally, this was the deepest one because I got fully immersed in what was happening. I saw clearly the Sasquatch for a minute, but then I didn't see it, but I felt its presence, and I felt a heart connection. So usually my meditations are like mental, detached, but this time it was a heart connection, and I also recognized him. Like I didn't know where and how, but I knew that I know him from somewhere. So it was, he called me brother. I heard him say brother. So it was really emotional as well. And yeah.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. I was wondering
And leading up to it, like there was like 4 signs here where I live from them. Small structures, two structures, and other things, and this egg. And
Wow.
like not much happened, and then I was focused on this for a week because we were meeting and also this upcoming meditation, and then it's all started to happen. And during this week, like I received 4 signs, I saw 2 structures, and received this egg. And before it, when I wasn't focused in it, nothing happened. But when I was focused in it, it all started happening. And also the meditation was this good this time.
How many people are in this with you?
Well, this time it was 5 people.
All from Europe or in your country, or?
4 from Europe and No, 3 from Europe and 2 from the States.
Oh, geez, that's neat. And here's something kind of weird. You know, I told you that I take those nature hikes and stuff. And I looked at your website or something where you told us to look for structures and that kind of thing. And I found some of those.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And I tried to put a rock out there as a gift.
That's a good idea.
I did do that, but I didn't have any luck with it. I didn't persevere with it. I just did it one time. But yeah, seeing those structures was really weird. I mean,
yeah, well, they are everywhere. They are everywhere, and doesn't matter. It's United States, Canada, or Europe, and it's easy to find them.
Yeah. What do you have to say there, Gordon?
I was thinking about your question that Larissa answered, but my take on that was you have trouble acting in the moment of our group meditation because you're quite attached to your role as sort of coordinator and facilitator. And I think subconsciously you think if you start to have an experience, you'll lose control of the other thing.
Wait, there's one thing.
I think that's what holds you back.
Yeah, there's one thing. See, I did take some mediumship development courses, like Denise talks about, and that you can practice with other mediums, developing mediums. I did do that, and the same thing would happen there. I mean, in the beginning, I would do good, and then as time went on, and the pressure got to me where, you know, if you don't come up with something, you feel like you're a failure. And so it just got worse and worse as time. And I actually had to drop out of one of them because I was making me depressed. But in the beginning, I was getting it right away. I know it was working. And I think if I think about it too much, then it backfires. I mean, I'm fine with the way that I'm doing it now, piecing it together. I'm just wondering what the people thought about that. And you guys have given me some good advice.
Well, that's my take on it. And but also we've noticed over the months that you seem to do these retrievals in stages, and then something comes later.
Yes.
And I mean, to me, they're always interesting and interestingly detailed. And your commitment to, you know, gruesome murder scenes, I'd say is pretty cool. You've retrieved quite a few people that have been murdered, and that's not always the happiest situation, but you seem quite well able to cope with that.
It doesn't bother me, and I think that's part of the reason why I get them, because they bother other people and they send them to me for that reason.
Right, exactly.
I think my main problem is just getting going in the beginning. Once I get going and have a little bit, then I can just grow real easily on it. It's the very beginning of having a spirit come to me. Okay, Denise, go ahead.
I just wanted to say too, to make sure that you're not hard on yourself, depending upon the type of group setting it is. It's like these practice settings that I'm going in, you know, I go through the same things that you're going through, David, right? But then I keep finding myself reminding myself that this is like doing a gallery reading, and any psychic you talk to, they hate gallery readings. It's the worst, you know, it's the last type of reading that they want to give. It's different than a one-on-one when you make that connection and whatever have you. So it's actually, you know, in a situation, in that situation, it's actually the most difficult, but sometimes in the most difficult situation is when we grow the most. So, you know, you got to weigh it out or whatever. But I just, you know, don't be hard on yourself, because same thing for me. I go through the same things that you're going through. And I constantly find myself having to remind me, you know, these are gallery readings. You know what I mean? You're not prepared. If you were actually doing this for a living or whatever, you would know who you were seeing at what time. It might even be a repeat customer. You might like you said, you'll set it up a week in advance when you know who your client is, and information will come in. You won't be on the spot. So it'll be completely different. But and I just find by learning this way, it actually, when you actually do get into the easy readings, it's just going to flow like bananas because, you learned it the hard way, so to speak. So I just add that. All
right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your comments.
You're welcome. Glad to be able to help.
And a quick note of I thought that if you start something, in the beginning, usually it works. It's maybe to invite you into that thing. They give you get a glimpse, so you get motivation to continue.
Yes.
But then you have to break through your own defenses or whatever is blocking, and that's work. So that's might be one reason that in the beginning it works, and then you face some things.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments for today?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Gordon that in the afterlife realm, after people move on and integrate into their life in the afterlife, do they have past life recollection, or do they only remember their last life?
I think it's depending on who they are in their personal evolution and what they're ready to expose themselves to. The people on the lower levels barely can remember their past lives. They're quite forgetful about that. And because their memories.
You mean the life that they just lived, or?
Yes, you can see. I've noticed that in my own experiences, and also books by various communicating psychics. They'll talk to people that are quite earthbound and obsessed with some issue or other, or several issues. Sometimes it's to do with, I'm thinking of a few things recently. Sometimes it's to do with what a son or grandson is or is not doing with his life. And they're the father or the grandfather's trying to get them to, no, I want you to do this. You should be doing this. You should follow this career path. You should marry this woman, whatever. And it's, they get obsessed with that, and they will say, the psychic will ask them about their lives, and they say, well, I remember a little bit, but I don't remember it all. And then the psychic has to sort of train them to remember stuff. And then on a higher, yeah, for sure. And some of the lower spirits, they're quite degraded because of a life of crime or immorality or obsessions in one kind of a lust or another. They remember their career of gambling. They remember their career of alcoholism and drugs and seduction, but they don't remember other stuff. They're sort of focused on, what they were obsessed with. And then on higher levels, where people have lived fairly quote unquote normal lives, not saintly, not full of sin, fairly, considerate of others, and working away at their jobs and supporting their families. They tend to be focused on the recent past life, and they're going over it and thinking, did I do this right? Did I do that right? It's a shame my wife and I fought so much, or, whatever. And they have to go through their regrets. I didn't do well in my career. I should have done better. I was, I fought with my son all the time. They think about all that sort of thing. And so that's the most recent past life. They tend to obsess on the achievements or the disappointments or the troubling things with their past life. And they're so focused on that, unless they all live in some kind of a community, whether it's religious or just sort of humanitarian. kind of like the life we live here, and there's all kinds of opportunities to take courses, any kind of courses, carpentry, dancing, you name it, painting, anything. And some of these small schools and colleges will have courses on past life regression. And they'll have a little sign on the door, and they won't be pushy, but people will get interested and they'll go do a past life regression in the astral plane, just like they might do, as David has mentioned a few times, psychological therapy in the astral plane. And that is when they discover that these stories they've heard about past lives, and for lots and lots of people, stuff to do with past lives is just a story that they've seen on television, they've heard in a book, that a friend has mentioned, yada, yada, yada. They never took it seriously. And that's when they start to get really interested, is taking a course. So does that help a bit, Adrian?
Yes, but it's it's those who are interested in this type of thing. Not everyone. Like if someone is interested in, I'm asking. So I suppose not everyone is interested in past lives, even in the afterlife.
No, they're not. They're not. There's lots of people, lots of religions that don't believe in past lives. Obviously, Hindus and Buddhists do, but Muslims and Christians don't. So there's a tendency for them to block all those thoughts out. And they can still live a fairly devoted, clean living, faithful life, and try to live up to the dictates of their prophets, Muhammad and Christ, in an honest and sincere way. But that doesn't include exploring past lives. And they're probably aware, if they've got Hindu or Buddhist or kind of New Agey people in their community, that they do that. But they just sort of, just like they do here, they know that we do this stuff, but they just kind of dismiss it as our little fantasy,
Fascinating.
And, yeah. So there's all these belief systems, Adrian. And as you know, I mean, you're part of a very strong belief system about the Sasquatch. So that's great. You're exploring that, and it's a fairly limited interest level, but the rest of us know that it's real. We haven't explored it as much as you have, but we're interested. So the afterlife, to me, is like, in my experience, is much like that. There's a lot of people exploring things, and all sorts of things, from the most conventional to the most unconventional. And they're doing it in a relaxed way, because if they're living in the kind of summer land, there's no pressure to do anything. They're in paradise. So they sort of move along those paths bit by bit, discover this, discover that, and just sort of evolve as spirits by doing these things.
Okay, thank you. That was very interesting.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be able to help on that.
Well, thank you everybody for coming, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. You'll get the email from me, and everybody have a good rest of the week. See you next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too,
Thank you,
David.
Gordon.
Have fun with your family.
Thanks everyone for
Yeah,
sharing.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Gordon.